You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast. Welcome to the show, On Purpose Community, episode 156. And now, before I introduce my guest here, this is kind of ironic it played out this way. If you believe in the universe and the numbers and that they mean stuff, 156 has always been a number that I kind of identified with since 2001 because it was my badge number in Fort Collins. So literally everything I did had to have that number somewhere. So ironically, Jesse O'Rulian is our guest today, and he'd been somebody I wanted on for a while. And for whatever reason, I didn't reach out, or I thought I was going to reach out. And ironically, I got him scheduled for exactly on episode 156. So welcome to the significant show, Jesse O'Rulian.
What's up, Jerrod? Man, that's a good intro, man. You've had 156 times to practice, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's funny. When I looked, I was like, oh, that's perfect, because, you know, you were somebody that was influential to me back when I was fighting, and you and I had a lot of, quite honestly, I felt like we had a lot of good talks mat side and at the gym that would have been podcast episodes even back in the day.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Yeah, you're what was it? We called you Violent Oprah.
Yeah.
All the right violence, all the right feels. Yeah,
you called me that.
Yeah, I did. I like it. You're definitely. I enjoyed working with you there, and definitely got me in the right state of mind to go out and bop someone in the nose. You know, so.
Jesse, for you guys that don't know Jesse, he is one of the more talented martial arts I've ever come across with. I mean, he's one of those guys that was always well-rounded everywhere, but more than that, Jesse, and I want to say this about you. One thing that I loved is even though you fought and I fought, I would never say you were a fighter. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean that there's certain guys that just love the fight and they want to see if they can dominate somebody else, and they get all their derivative, you know, they drive all their satisfaction from that. Whereas I always looked at you were always a martial artist. Like you were always like cerebrally trying to become a better person, a better son, a better friend through fighting. But you didn't necessarily, I wouldn't say you put all the weight on the fight more than you genuinely seem to enjoy the journey. What would you say to that?
Man, I think you nailed it on that one. I appreciate you viewing me in that light. For me, the focus is to be a martial artist. You know, I think it's a lifetime pursuit. You know, ultimately, like my body's going to give out before I learn everything. I also enjoy the fighting side of things. But I want to try to label myself as a martial artist, not just the dumb jock. You know.
Well, and I think that was the thing for you, is you were always learning. Like you always asked questions, and like you could tell you were seeking like deeper knowledge versus, will this get me to a win? You wanted to really understand like what was it about, like what mattered, what happens if I put my weight here versus here? Why is this different? And I think ultimately that's why you're going to be an amazing coach.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, I think I'm just I've always been kind of a poor student. So like fighting is like one of those things like I really have to work at. And I've learned a lot of things the hard way and trying to get better at just understanding the why behind things, kind of, because it's at the point now with like fighting, like you can't just be a hard worker. Like you have to be deliberate and have a plan, you know?
And I think what you've always done well, and I'm sure your students will greatly benefit from this, is you translate that to their lives. And I think that's the mark of a true coach, is when we make people better, not necessarily in the skill area they employ us, but in their life in general.
Yeah, man, I hear you there. So, you know, like I feel like for fighting, like it's something that I feel like it's kind of like camping. Like you get to know someone like really fast because you're uncomfortable, like pooping in the woods. Like no one's comfortable. Like fighting, like it's uncomfortable, and you really get to connect and meet people on a different level than you normally would. So.
I love it, and I hadn't thought of it that way. But now here's what I got to slow you down, Jesse. You're getting too deep, too quick for this community. Our on-purpose community is used to easing into this, so I want you to think of this as like a warm-up. I got to get you loose. I can't have you just doing all the fancy moves right away. Your hips are tight right now, Jesse.
Yeah. Hips and hips, baby.
All right, here's what I want to know. You are stranded on an island for the rest of your life. You get one food. What does Jesse want to eat?
Tacos.
All right.
I feel like yeah, I feel like you could do Choco tacos fall under that umbrella?
Hey, man,
All
it's your
kind of
island.
tacos, breakfast tacos. Yeah,
Choco
I'm a
tacos for
taco guy.
dessert.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good
yeah,
idea.
I stand by that.
What?
What about you? Where you at?
Oh, you can't ask me. It's my show. I don't. You know, I don't answer the warm up questions. I came in warmed up, Jesse. All right. Next question
All
for
right.
you. What if you could have one superpower? What would it be, and why would you have it?
Oh, superpower. Like so, any?
Anything you want,
Uh,
buddy.
I'm gonna have to go with Green Lantern.
Oh, what?
Uh,
What specific power?
so he just kind of has this ring that it just if you wear the ring, you can basically create your own solutions to
Oh,
whatever. So
what
like
would you
if
solve with
you
that? You got the ring. What's the first thing you're solving?
oh man, gotta fix myself up right, you know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably get my life and get everything in my square dialed in, but that's a good question.
That's good.
Yeah.
What current book are you reading, Jesse? And what's a favorite
Beekeep
book?
beekeeping for dummies. So I'm getting my first hive here in April, and so I'm trying not to. My goal is not to kill them the first year. So
Yeah, that's good.
uh,
Bees are essential to us.
yeah, favorite book. Shoot, that's a good one. Um, I really like. Well, yeah, I'll go with the good book, Bible, man.
Yeah.
That one's been good for me. But one that outside of that, I really liked Customato's book. I only talk winning. That was a good one.
Oh, nice. What was
Yeah.
what'd you take away from that?
Um, I guess like one of the things that he would every day with Mike Tyson, he'd have him say, each and every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. And so
Mm,
like his big thing was self-realization and self-actualization. So
mm.
that was kind of like the big thing there that I got from Cuss was just mentally getting someone ready and getting yourself ready for something.
Sure. And I mean, he's doing a mantra there with Mike back before, mantras and meditation and stuff were mainstream and everybody's talking about them.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He kind of so he got that idea from this guy named Emile Coulier, something like that. He wrote a whole book about how like people being able to go into surgeries without any uh, anesthetics or anything like that. That they could just having these mantras or being the state of hypnosis. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you get to
Yeah.
have dinner with one person. They can either be at any period in time, either dead or alive. Who would you have dinner with one more time, and what would you want to learn from them?
Alexander the Great.
Oh, that's a good one. What do you
Uh,
want to learn?
uh, Jeez. I think I don't know. I would probably just how to manage people, how to deal with people. I think that's kind of interesting
How did you get?
what he was able to accomplish.
Yeah, how'd you get into learning about Alexander the Great?
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, just I think I was reading. Uh, it was one of David McCullough's books. He started talking about him, and then I got into just went down the rabbit hole. So
Very nice. All right, now how you feeling? You warmed up?
yeah. Vocals are on point.
That's good. All right, Jesse, I want to talk to you about um, your life. You're definitely progressing in life and moving forward. How have you been able to adjust to the new life you're creating? You're recently married, now you got a baby, you're back coaching, you're back stateside. How's things been for you transitioning into all those new roles?
Man, uh, glad we had that warm up. That got me ready. No, yeah, that's a good question. I part of it is just to some degree, I feel like with a lot of things, you're just going to have to pick stuff up on the fly as far as getting prepared for this new position.
You talking
I
about
don't know.
fatherhood and marriage, or
Yeah,
what
yeah.
position?
I guess so, yeah. Fatherhood. That was a big thing for me. We came back. This last year has been a bit sporting. We came back from Indonesia, and then my dad passed away, and then I was diagnosed with cancer, and then my wife got pregnant, and so we had it's been a bit sporting, but I think my relationship with my wife has been the focal point. There is kind of grounding me and just getting working as a team, going through these different phases,
Sure.
and yeah.
Eh,
And what about you? Is that are you kind of in that same ballpark with your wife?
Oh, I think communication is essential. I think for us right now, living. I actually just wrote a blog about this because people are always asking us, like, how do you live with each other in such close quarters and not want to kill each other? And I tell them it's all about communication. Like being in a close space all the time, you're forced to really communicate and not let small issues lie because you can ignore it at the gym or through being busy, but you actually deal with things, which I think gives you more time to really explore each other's dreams and hopes and wishes because you're not harboring on something small that didn't get dealt with last week.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
So
Yeah, you and Andrew have really been bopping around.
yeah, that's what we do nowadays. It's our new purpose, right? Like I loved in your questionnaire you talked about how purposes change in life, and I agree. And I think that's one of the things I've been successful at is moving from okay, this is my purpose now. Okay, now that season's passed, I'm moving on. So I want to talk to you, Jesse. How was it to lose your father, have your own personal health tested with cancer, and become a dad all within a year? How did you manage that?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, again, uh, I think God and my wife, but yeah, it's I feel like in some ways being able to compartmentalize your life and my life. My wife's like walking around like crazy pregnant, and I diagnosed with cancer, so like I didn't want to be stressing her out too much, but I think taking turns being strong for each other, that was a big thing for us. It's like there'd be times where I was down in the dumps, and
Yeah,
my wife just like would refuse to let me feel sorry for myself.
I love that.
um
How,
yeah.
how did you So being a fighter and being a very macho industry where a lot of times we're suppressing our feelings because we don't want anybody to see that we got hurt with that shot. We don't want to see them thinking we're feeling like we're tired.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. How did you adapt to letting her know you weren't okay and that you needed to rely on her? Both one, how did you let her know that, and two, how did you reconcile that with your ego? Because I think that's where a lot of guys struggle.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, well, my wife's she's pretty good at reading me. So I try my best to put on a poker face, but a lot of it's just what kind of attitude I have. I could be feeling just feeling like absolute dog shit, but it doesn't mean I can't greet her in the morning with a smile, and just the things that I have control over, my attitude. But yeah, that's again, I think leaning on each other and taking turns being strong. She allowed me to just be vulnerable, and just finding someone that allows that is, I think, a big part.
Yeah, I love that. One, she allows it, and two, she pulled you out of it,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Because a lot of
yeah,
times people will seek, I don't want to say, but they'll just the universe, you attract what you put out. And I think sometimes people, when they're sad and they're down, the people they seek will also be sad and down. And they'll allow them to stay there and manifest it into a much bigger deal. Whereas you went to somebody that was strong, that had trusted you could be vulnerable, but then she was also like, okay, Jesse, it's time for us to get back up.
yeah, yeah, and then, like, just yeah, being able to read each other. one of the things that really helped me was just she's encouraging me just to get back training. She's like, I don't know what we need to do with your schedule, but you got to get back training. Like, that's this isn't gonna last. So I think she knows that, like, when I'm training, when I'm pushing myself, I mean, it doesn't have to be much, just as long as you're moving that dial forward just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think having that martial arts to go back to as, I guess, I'm a facilitator.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
now having the Bible as one of your favorite books, did you turn to that in that time? Because that seems like a lot of testing in 1 year, to where like even I think about that and I'm like, man, I would probably be going, why is this happening? Like, what am I supposed to be learning from all this in 1 year? Did you find yourself asking that question?
Uh, yes and no. Like, I kind of, I feel like my faith keeps me strong, and it's so hard just to label something as good or bad. Like, even just like when I got diagnosed with cancer, so I got kicked in the groin sparring, and I was like, oh shit, man, something's wrong with my nut. End up
Right.
going to the doctor, find out I have cancer. But I wouldn't have known had I not gotten kicked in the dick.
Sure.
So, like, ultimately getting kicked in the groin turned out to be a life-saving thing. So when I met my wife, like, I had just broken both of my hands in my pro debut, and had to move in with my parents. But then that's when I met my wife. So it's kind of hard to label anything as entirely good or bad. You know what I mean?
No, I think but again, Jesse, that's why I got you on, and that is a fantastic mindset, because I think we want to live in an absolute world where things are either good or bad, but exactly what you're saying, everything is good and bad,
Yeah.
right? Everything is, there's a purpose and a perspective there.
Yeah. I think just understanding that all these things, whether it's good or bad, like, I'm gonna make it for my benefit. So
Sure. And how's
might
your
as well just keep
fight
moving.
with cancer been going? One thing before you answer that, one thing I will tell you is that even when I saw you were diagnosed, like, you literally, as soon as you shared it with the world, you're like, I'm beating this. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, to where, there was no question that you were going to win, and sometimes I think you won so convincingly that many people forgot you had that fight.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, in my mind, like, that's, yeah, I lost my lucky nut, but now I feel like I'm perfectly balanced. So um, it's been sporting for sure, but yeah, I just kind of knew, like, all right, just roll with the punches. Just gotta keep moving.
And everything's good now. You're ahead of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not entirely out of the woods yet. So I had surgery in February. It's been about a year, and then so now I just have to go in uh, every couple months to get blood work and CT scans, just make sure it hasn't spread anywhere. So I guess that they haven't declared me in full remission right now, but I think we're good.
Very cool. Well, I love that, and like I said, Jesse, for those of us cheering you on from afar, there was no doubt you were going to beat it.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. And check your nuggets, fellas.
Yeah,
Make
without
sure.
getting kicked in them, preferably. Yes.
Yeah, wear your cup.
If you could do it without
Yeah.
getting kicked. All right, Jesse, I want to talk to you about plant and punch, family, farming, and fighting, and
Yeah.
what that is to you, and share the story of that to us.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's the kind of like the next phase of my life with my wife. We spent a year living in Thailand and a year spent in Indonesia and Bali. Uh, the virus brought us back stateside, and now we've kind of reached a point where we want to circle the wagons, move out to the country, eat a lot of peaches. You know what I mean? Um, and I think going through cancer made me really want to grow my own food. I want to know what's in everything I'm eating. And so right now we're looking for property out in Tennessee and getting our farmstead going. and that Plant and Punch is going to be our blog slash website that we're in the process of building. So
Oh,
look
very
for that in
nice.
the next couple months. Yeah.
What specifically are you hoping to grow, and do you have like an idea of what that looks like to you, like acreage, farmhouses? How are you going to run that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So I'm a big believer in Joel Salatin, Polyface Farms. He has a pretty good, cool template laid out where they use French grazing methods. So it's just like rotational grazing
Okay.
for you can do it from with cattle, sheep, whatever. So our goal is to start with poultry and build up to beef. So building chicken tractors, and I'm a big fan of permaculture.
Yep.
So trying to get away from using pesticides. I feel like there's a lot of ways you can pair things to still get optimal growth, and again, not use these pesticides and hormones and all that
And
GMO nonsense.
sure, and that was sparked from you kind of having cancer and wanting to take more ownership of knowing where your food comes from.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And I think just being able to be a little more self-sufficient and self-reliant, I want to be able to provide for my family. So that's it's been a big push for us this last year. So every month we're just trying to add some more animals and add some more plants and keep see what works for us.
Now,
So
now, do you have the land already? Are you already actually on the land working it?
no, not yet. We're here in Cincinnati, but we got chickens, goats, and going to be getting quail here soon.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're moving.
Yeah, I love it. That's something that we've recently took a huge interest in as well. And when we were in Costa Rica, we actually visited a coffee plantation that's permaculture based, and
Cool.
it was fascinating. Just like you said, like he doesn't use any pesticides. But what he does is if like there's a certain bug that likes to attack the coffee plant, he puts a plant next to the coffee plant that likes to kill those bugs, right? And he uses Mother Nature to kind of fulfill the roles it would have done prior to chemicals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm convinced, Mother Nature, if we're dialed in, we shouldn't have to use other resources unless like it's a really bad situation. And even then, like I still feel like there's ways to manage. And I think a big thing for me moving forward is not being a monocrop farm.
Right.
Like I'm not just going to grow corn or whatever, just having different revenue streams and different revenue or different crops going,
Yeah.
so they can kind of help each other. I think that's where we run into trouble when you get these guys that are these super farms that can all they're worried about is timelines and
Right.
cash crop.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think one of the byproducts of COVID is that for a large segment of population, farming is becoming cool again.
Yeah,
Right? Like guys like us are
yeah,
sitting around talking about permaculture and poly crops, not monocrops, and right. Like I had never heard of any of this forever, and now I'm like, oh wait a second, I'm gonna. One of the things for us in Costa Rica is they don't ship any of their food. Like everything's local. Like that grocery store you go to is local because they don't use pesticides or, they don't have quite the industrial um, development we do, so they don't transport stuff all over the country. So we've tried consciously since we've been back in the United States to only shop at like farmers markets or places where we can meet the farmers bringing the stuff, and it's been very, very rewarding and interesting to see that you can do it here in the United States.
yeah, absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's not as convenient as just running to the store. Like you got to search out and find it, but you can still do it if you truly want to know where your food's coming from.
Yeah, yeah, and kudos to you guys for figuring that out and pursuing that. That's huge. Yeah, so that's the goal for us is try to be sustainable and self-sufficient. how have you guys been feeling since you've been made that switch?
Love it. Love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like what we like to call like conscious consuming, right? Like we know what we're trying to eat and who's benefiting from it, and I think it just puts you more in touch with what you're eating. I don't know if do you follow Sadhguru at all? You ever heard of him?
Yeah. I like Sadhguru.
Yeah, I love him, and he talks about how we're all one, right? Like, so that water that you look at, that's part of you as soon as you drink it, and the corn you eat is part of you as soon as you eat it. And if we look at everything around us as part of us, how much differently would we treat it? Would we dump pollutants in the water if we know it's going to become us? Would we spray pesticides on the crops if we knew it was going to become us? And you would probably say no to most of that. And I think that's kind of what we've done now is like really try to be conscientious of what is the impact of what we're putting in our body, one, on our body, and two, on earth.
Absolutely. Yeah, just like our footprint, what we're leaving.
Sure.
No, I think that's spot on. And even just like now I'm just trying to be more conscious of reading labels, and even just like this crap like soy that they're just putting in everything. It's such a filler. It's not good. Like
Right.
I'm not about that soy boy life. I
Right.
mean, if it works for you, but it's not in my cards, not in my game plan.
Sure. And now how has being a father even made that more important to you?
Yeah, I mean, what world am I going to be leaving for my daughter? And even just seeing my wife, so we decided to do an at-home birth. So we had a midwife come out, and just seeing I delivered our daughter. My wife was standing up like the bad bitch she is, stand up, stood up and delivered our baby, and just
Very
seeing her come
nice.
into the world like a natural way with no intervention, and just seeing her just blink open her eyes just so peacefully. And it's like, all right, this is the way it needs to be. Just I feel like we get caught up on all these interventions and all these ways when I think we can simplify our lives in a lot of ways and just make life better.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, we use midwives too. I didn't quite do the delivering myself. You're you're more advanced in that than me.
That's cool. I didn't know you guys did midwife.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I was freaked out at first when my wife was telling me that's what she wanted to do, but the more we researched it, felt comfortable, and it's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, I think having my daughter, that was a big thing for me. Is just like I want her to have access to all the best food, and I'm kind of a control freak, so I'd like to grow up my own way and do it my own way and do it my own time and process. So here we are.
And how has now being a father just changed your perspective on? Actually, let's go back. How has the last year changed your perspective? Between your dad and cancer and now being a father, what's that done to you? As your perspective on your own life and the lives of those around you?
I think losing my dad to he died of Alzheimer's. And so to me it just showed just how fleeting life is. Um, no one plans on dying today. That's so for me, seeing that and then having my daughter, like it just made me realize how important today is and providing future. So it definitely, for me, I feel like in life you can only be good at so many things unless you're like one of those phenomenally talented assholes. But for me, like I feel like I'm only going to be good at two or three things, like really good. And I think being a father's, number one for me.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
100% agree with you. You get spread too thin, you're going to be mediocre in a bunch of stuff.
yeah.
And so, what's it done for? How's it made you a better coach?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think I for me, like lean for a long time I fell into the trap of wanting to be everybody's friend. um and to working with the fighter, like, oh, I want to do this today. I'm like, all right, let's do it, let's have a good attitude, get some work done. But I think it's maybe a little more stern
Sure.
as the coach, and just kind of um, sometimes people just need to be told no at certain times, and sometimes people need to just let them work through whatever they're working through and talk to you and just be able to listen. But yeah, I think overall, as a coach, it's made me uh, it's made me want to reach out and just show a little more love.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's interesting you say that about coaching because it's ironic that mixed martial arts is a very tough sport. Yet
Hmm.
a lot of times there aren't tough conversations had within it that need to be had. Right? Like a lot of times, like, just like you said, a fighter needs to be told no. We're not going to do your most favorite technique for the 400th time today because you're not losing because your favorite technique isn't the best. We need to work on this over here, even though you don't want to work on it.
Yeah, yeah, and then sometimes just being able to tell someone like, no, go home. Like you don't need to train right now. You need
Yeah,
a
give your
rest.
day
Like
off.
yeah, yes, yeah, for sure. That's being I guess being able to read the each each fighter individually and kind of getting a better pulse on how they're feeling that session.
I love it.
But
Now
yeah,
talk to me, Jesse, about this this kind of, I don't know if you call it a mantra or an answer to one of the questions I gave you beforehand. You said that one of the keys for you is to find a routine and get rid of what is toxic.
yeah. I'm a creature of habit. You know, I like traveling. I love that every day was just different. But for me, like I do well with structure, and I feel like if you really want to succeed or be good at anything, you need to set up timelines. You need to set up a schedule. And so I think for me, um, I really need a strong routine to kind of keep me on track. And then along the way, I mean, we can't eliminate all toxic people or behaviors or whatever it is, but just trying to be mindful of what type of energy or whatever it is I'm allowing in my life.
Yeah, what's keeping that at the forefront? What changes have you had to make? If you look back on, say, Jesse in 2016 to Jesse now, what were some realizations you had discovered in your life that were toxic or were holding you back from becoming who you were supposed to be?
Um, I think 2016 Jesse, you know, like I wasn't, my wife and I, we weren't married yet. I didn't have a baby. So I was a little more lackadaisical with my time. And I think Jesse now has more responsibility, but I feel like the responsibility has been really helpful in making me more deliberate. And I think now, you know, like I'm working, I got the family, you know, so when I do go to train, like I have to be very deliberate about what I'm doing. So like even my warm up, like, all right, the first 15 minutes, I'm just focusing on footwork, you know, and then, you know, and so on, setting micro goals for that day. So that keeps me on track.
Oh, micro goals. I love that. Do you do that every day? Do you have like a goal setting portion of your day?
For sure. Yeah. Mornings, you know, I get up, have my coffee, read a little of the Bible, sit in front of my salt lamp and pretend like winter's not here.
Yeah.
But then yeah, I set my goals for training. You know, for me, like easy things for me is just find what I'm good at, what to pair it with, and find a weak link and how to work on that.
Oh man, that's deep. I love that. And that, I mean, you can apply that to life, right? Like for those of you in the community, they're like, okay, I'm not training fighting. How does this apply? Think about if you did that in your day. You woke up, identified what you're good at, kind of where you want to get to, and what's the weak link between what I'm currently doing and where I want to get, and then work on making that weak link stronger. How much better would our days be?
Yeah. One of the things too, like I really like John Danaher. He talks about, you know, find something you're good at and pair it with something.
Yeah.
So, you know, if so, say like with fighting, you find yourself cheating an angle to the right really easily on the majority of people. Like, all right, what can I pair that with? And
Yeah.
I guess like if you're not fighting, just like, okay, I'm good at X. What can I pair that with?
Yeah.
So that if you're naturally putting you're putting yourself in positions to win. Like you can add a couple more beats on that.
You're not just to win, but you're improving. Like by acknowledging, like, okay, this is something I'm doing. What goes well with this? Now I'm becoming better.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think another thing that's kind of shifted for me too is like before I would always end practice on whatever note the coach puts it on. But now I've been trying to be more mindful of like ending on a win. Um, whether it be on the bag, whether it be just getting a couple more reps of a technique, but ending on a high note. Just because I feel like it kind of lingers with you. That end of the practice, that vibe that you have, kind of lingers with you the rest of the day. So if I end on a crappy note where I got taken down and held on the ground, and then I'm done for the day, it kind of eats me up. So I found it helps me ending on a high note.
Dude, I love that. And honestly, as you're saying that, I'm like, I think through, like, gosh, that is so true because, like, so a coach has, say, 30 students on the mat. They can't, there's no way they can make a practice end perfectly for everybody.
Yeah,
Right? Right. And quite
yeah,
honestly, as a coach, like, I'm not even thinking of, okay, how does everybody get a perfect ending? But, like, okay, the hour's up, practice is over. I love that you took the idea that it's your job to make sure you end that session with a positive mind frame.
yeah, yeah. I was listening to shoot, what was it? Dan Brinkus, something like that. I forget the name of his podcast, but he had this gold medalist skier on there, and he was saying that the most important. He did moguls. He said like the most important run of the day are the last five gates because
Yeah.
that's all you're gonna think about the rest of the day. It's just subconsciously like that stuff lingers with you, and that was kind of a big changing point for me. It's just trying to. It's easy to point fingers and
Yeah.
blame other people, but when you take that accountability, like my practice, my day belongs to me, and how I end it, and on me, not on someone else.
So now let me ask you, Jesse, because now that you said that, I'm thinking like, how many practices did I run that ended and people may have left and spent all night thinking about what they didn't do well? Have you integrated that into your coaching to try to make sure that you do end on some of a high note for most of the students?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But like if there's someone like that's like so for me, like man, I'll do stand up every day, won't miss a practice, but jujitsu or some of the wrestling, how to get back up, like so if someone's having struggling with that, like guess what, that's how you're ending every practice is getting your ass back up to your
Right.
feet.
Right.
I think with some people, like you don't need to end on a mentally high note. Maybe it's a mentally like a come to Jesus note, like all right, we got some shit to work on. But I think the confidence ultimately comes from the skills developing.
Yeah. I love that, but I also love like applying to that to life, right? Like I am responsible for how I end anything. And if my day, like I guess like the analogy I'm coming to mind with is, like people that watch news right before bed or watch some high drama TV show and then they go to bed and they're like, well, I didn't sleep very well. And all right, my mind was racing. And you're like, well, it's because you didn't end the day on a high note. Like you did something low vibrational, like putting a bunch of drama in your life versus like doing meditation right before bed, or like you said, like sitting in your salt lamp, just reflecting on how grateful we are for all of our abundance. No matter what we have, we're grateful for that abundance. And kind of taking ownership to conclude our days and to conclude the things that we get to do versus leaving it up to somebody else to decide how we walk away from those.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's yeah, I think that ownership's everything, and I don't think it's for me, like I don't the the amount of investment and the return, it just makes sense, even if it's just having 5-10 minutes to yourself just to center before you go to bed.
Yeah. All right, Jesse, you put in here that you're Are you still going to fight? Let me ask you. I got distracted. So you're coaching. I know you were fighting when you were over in Thailand a little bit. You competed a few times.
Yeah, I fought in Thailand and then did some boxing and some kickboxing in Indonesia. But yeah, I intend to fight. My wife and I were talking about it, and she recognizes that that's a very healthy thing for me to be
Sure.
doing and being involved in.
You're gonna
And oh, go ahead.
you're gonna compete in MMA here in the States, or you're gonna stay focused on the kickboxing and striking?
I feel like I have unfinished work with MMA, and I've been trying to tighten up my wrestling and my jujitsu. So for sure in MMA, definitely some type of striking, kickboxing or boxing. I had a lot of fun doing some boxing.
Dude, you're so good at that stuff, man. You are one of
Oh,
I mean, there's two guys that I remember sparring with on the feet that I was like, this is just gonna be a miserable round. Like, no matter what I do, this is gonna be miserable. It's you and Stonehouse.
Stony. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I did so good. Bap, bap. Ah, shit, I thought I did really good, but apparently I didn't.
Yeah, man, it's fun. But I mean, then you just take my goofy ass to the ground. I tell
Nah.
people I'm a good wrestler when I do exactly opposite of what I think I should.
Dude, that's advice life too, right? I'll be honest, most of my life is the exact opposite of what I thought I was going to be doing. It works out pretty good.
Yeah,
And then you're
yeah.
writing. Talk to me about your writing, Jesse. What are you writing?
Uh, Really, it's just more of a journaling the farming journey right now. So, I mean, my goal is to put out content that makes it easier to live and make yourself harder to kill. So,
Oh, I love it.
uh,
But you
yeah,
do
so
it with
right
such
now,
purpose, man. Like you do it with like a poet's heart. So I can't wait to read some of this.
I'm working on it. We'll see. We'll see. I'm excited about it, mainly just because I'm hoping just to be able to engage people and talking about shit that I want to talk about.
Love
So,
it. Yeah, dude, that's the
so
thing you see in the world today. Like whether you believe in censorship or not, like it's out there. Like you see people that you can't find anymore. Or we're canceling people if they say anything that somebody doesn't agree with. So I think it's imperative that people have channels like the On Purpose podcast and what you're creating, so you can share real content with those that are looking for what you're saying.
yeah. I just it's been fun for me though, and it's been a way to kind of add a scientific element to farming, and just this is what works for me. Hopefully, it works for you. So,
I can't wait to read. Where can our audience follow along with you, Jesse?
Instagram. Yeah, I'm usually hanging out there. Facebook, and then I'll be posting links of things to come. So,
Jesse_O'Reilly at Instagram. I love that name too, dude. Every time I see your name just pop up on my feed, I'm like, oh, really, Foo. I love that.
yeah. Try to keep it spicy, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's reach out to me, and if you want to talk bees, fighting, violence, whatever, let's do it.
awesome. Thanks so much for blessing our community with your time, Jesse. It's been an honor and privilege to call you my friend and to share your story a little bit with our world.
Hey, thank you so much, Jerrod. You have a good one, man.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.